Seattle's office vacancy rate hits 26.6%, second worst in all of the land. In days, it becomes Democrat socialist Katie Wilson's problem and our problem. What's going to happen? Let's get into it. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to run you through a bunch of scenarios that already exist in the city of Seattle before we get into the, oh my God, we got a socialist for mayor. What's going to happen to the downtown core? That's already been happening. And some of it has to do with that whole work from home remote thing, right? We're a tech city here in Seattle. But that doesn't mean that the same rules apply, because what you've got going on in Seattle is you've got a city with its leadership that is hell-bent on moving businesses out, not in, out. Here's a good example. Downtown Seattle retail upheaval. Ross is out. Nordstrom Rack moving. Okay? So Ross is out. How Ross Dress for Less, this location, this is on the southern end of the Blade in downtown Seattle. We've got the McDonald's, which is at 3rd and Pike. This is at 3rd and Pine, or whatever those streets are. This is probably the worst location for a clothing store in North America. I would go that far. This is that bad. And how Ross has stuck it out to this point, I do not know. I do not know. It's absolutely insane. And just a few blocks south of that, I'm going to show you this crime happened. Video shows random attack on 75-year-old woman in downtown Seattle. Okay, here we go. This is truly horrific. So this is just a couple of blocks away. And this is the street conditions in a lot of this part of downtown Seattle. Here we go.
Developing tonight, new video shows the shocking attack on an elderly woman standing outside the King County Courthouse. A man armed with a board that had a spike through it hit the 75-year-old woman in the face, blinding her. KOMO's Jeremy Harris spoke with the woman's family and uncovered disturbing details about the suspect's reputation for attacking people on 3rd Avenue in downtown Seattle. Jeremy?
Yeah, 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛 came down here to pick up a food order in Pioneer Square when she was attacked. Now, I just got videos through a public records request that show what happened. We're going to pause the video before she's actually hit. But what really stood out to me was from police body camera video showing there were obvious warning signs about this suspect before the attack. It's just before noon on December 5th outside the King County Courthouse in Seattle. That's 75-year-old 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛 standing on the corner, and police say this is 𝗨𝗧𝗘𝗑𝗠𝗧 walking up with a stick in his hand when out of nowhere he attacks her. 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛 is knocked to the ground. Bystanders take a picture of the suspect, then rush to help 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛. The full scope of what happened wasn't clear yet. Police arrested 𝗪𝗧𝗑𝗑𝗠 a block away and found the weapon, this wooden board with a screw through the end of it. Police say that screw went through 𝗪𝗓𝗧𝗛's eye.
Guys, he's a regular. He usually punches.
It's okay. He's a regular. We know who he is. He regularly just physically assaults people. Now, you're a business and you're doing research and you're thinking, hey, Seattle's a pretty cool city. Maybe I should relocate my business there, just really grow things. And then you come across this and you're thinking, well, I want to be by the courthouse because what could go wrong there? And you pull up this video and you're like, I'm sorry, what? This guy is known on 3rd Avenue and you guys aren't doing anything about it. And this individual is claiming to be trans. Not that that's here nor there, but this guy's got a litany of criminal arrests and he's crazy. But he's been cleared, not crazy. The guy is a Looney Tune. He's running around. He whacks a 75-year-old woman in the head, cuts her face open, tears out her eyeball. She's blind. And he's just, running around downtown Seattle. Street conditions are important. You don't want to move a business into this kind of thing, right? You got to get this part squared away. So this is with second to worst vacancy rate in the United States. You've got this kind of horseshit going on. So make that make sense, right? Bruce Harrell was doing a good job of trying to square some of this away. He was trying to sweep the camps. He was making an effort, right? He was making an effort. And now that we've got a new socialist coming in, we'll see in a second here. Let's keep going.
He decided to escalate things way worse than his usual.
Where is he usually?
He's usually just up and down there.
As paramedics race her to the hospital, it becomes obvious police know 𝗨𝗨𝗪𝗧𝗛.
You have the suspect's ID.
Yeah, suspect's ID. He's being searched right now. Yeah. You know?
They know it by name.
Curious for a random assault on there.
Court records show 𝗨𝗪𝗧𝗛 had multiple prior convictions for assault, including stabbing someone 8 times at a party.
Was that?
And it's not her responsibility to know like what parts are good, what parts are like she cannot walk there.
𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪 is Jeanette Markham's son.
How's your mother doing?
Right now, she's out of the second surgery.
After several surgeries, she's been told she won't recover sight in her eye and may need even more reconstructive surgeries.
To take like
Horrific story. I mean, that story just keeps going. But then, all right, okay, so that's public safety. Now let's watch this video. This is Katie Wilson, our incoming mayor, and this is her attitude towards Starbucks, one of our, flagship companies that was started here in Seattle. And as you're an incoming mayor, you want as many businesses as possible to come to your city, right? Because that means more revenue. It's easier to run your city. You can smooth out a lot of problems if you got money to handle them. If you don't have money, then yeah. And businesses have already been leaving Seattle and coming to Bellevue, and we'll get to that. Don't worry. But this is her approach before she even takes office to one of Seattle's biggest employers and a flagship company that was started a handful of miles just over here in Bellevue. Here we go.
Baristas are the heart and soul of this company, and they deserve better than empty promises and corporate union bustings. That is why I am proud to stand with union baristas in their fight for a fair contract and for a union. That is why I am proud to join them on their picket line and proud to say loud and clear, I am not buying Starbucks and you should not either. And I would like to close with a message to Starbucks. This is your hometown and mine. Seattle's making some changes right now.
26.6% changes. It's second highest vacancy factor in the United States in your downtown core. And these are the kind of changes you're looking at? That's pure insanity. I mean, that's literally, what are you talking about? Like, what? We're going to boycott Starbucks? Oh. Nothing screams, hey, come do business in our community than a boycott, right?
I urge you to do the right thing. Because in Seattle, when workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? When workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? Workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? Because this is your city. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, so there's that. How about we just move on to Washington State and a new payroll tax, a statewide payroll tax. That screams, hey, bring business in, doesn't it? Doesn't it? No? All right. Well, here we go.
Ahead of next year's legislative session, one lawmaker says he plans to push a new tax on Washington companies through a statewide payroll tax. During today's press conference, Representative Sean Scott says a payroll tax will generate billions of dollars every year. The idea is to make companies pay a payroll tax for every high-earning employee. A similar tax is already in effect in Seattle, and Scott says it's time to make it statewide.
A similar tax is already in place in Seattle, and it has moved Amazon to push 10,000, 15,000, we don't know yet, employees from Seattle to Bellevue. That's a fact. That's already happened and is happening. And you've got a 26.6% vacancy factor, and you've got that on your books already, and you've got a tax that's already pushed business out. And this is what you come up with? Oh, we should tax the whole state. It works so good in Seattle that we should tax the whole state. This is the retarded nature of people in Washington state. They are literally brain dead, right? They just, they want what they want and they don't really give a damn what the outcome is. Because if they did, they wouldn't be going after this kind of nonsense. This is just business suicide. But hey, we're socialists, so let's give this a rip and we'll see what happens.
Also argues it's needed to combat President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Scott, who is the first Democratic socialist to be elected into the legislature, answered questions after his announcement, including one addressing concerns about companies cutting jobs or even incentivized not to pay workers high salaries if his tax passes.
When I hear people voice concerns about jobs that might be shed, which is a very important question. There are many deindustrialized communities throughout Washington state that have been hit very hard by corporations that did decide to relocate because they didn't want to pay what they owed in taxes.
Pay what they owed in taxes, you dumbass. I mean, seriously. Are you mentally incompetent? They're already paying out the ass, and they have the option to go elsewhere and not pay. And that's what they're doing. That's called smart business, right? That's called smart business. And yet you're a socialist and you don't really care what happens to the businesses in your community. You just want to tax them. Well, you're going to find out how that works. The end result isn't going to be anything new or shocking. It's just going to be one more of those podcast lines where you're like, well, didn't see that one coming. Not, right? You see these storylines coming from so far away because they're so easy to predict because this guy doesn't have any basis in reality, just like Mayor Katie Wilson, unfortunately, doesn't have a background in practical experience. This guy's just a numbnut, right? Here we go.
But then I don't hear any concerns around the fact that many of these corporations are actively investing in technology that is designed to divest from human labor. That strikes me as incredibly disingenuous because what it shows is that many corporations are doing the job shedding on their own volition. Now,
he's talking about AI. Talking about AI. You don't think we're moving towards AI there, big guy? We are. That's evolution of business. And if you can't roll with those punches, get the F out. That's unfortunately how it goes. That's just how it goes. So this whole workers of the world unite thing, I ain't going anywhere except down.
We're coming up with another idea to go after businesses who are already struggling in our state and are already moving. And it's especially aggravating to see a tax that has been so detrimental on Seattle alone, to see that move statewide and assume it's going to have any sort of positive net effect on jobs and business in the state is really insane.
Agreed.
Representative Chris Corey there says the $9 billion in taxes passed this year by the legislature against businesses was already hurtful and that more taxes like a payroll one next year will hurt the overall economy.
If you don't think the hits keep on a-coming here in Seattle and Washington, they're just... You're going to see a mass exodus of business because nobody wants to be here. All right. Let's play this clip.
Fund to avoid any sort of new taxes, but he is putting his very vocal support behind a new millionaire's tax just 2 years after the legislature prohibited any sort of state or local income taxes. 'Tis the season when the stockings are hung at the Capitol Dome and the governor will talk about how empty they are.
We started with a $1.6 billion shortfall in the supplemental budget.
Because you overspent and you won't cut anything. So our new governor says, yeah, we're not going to do any more taxes. But then he comes right back out and says, millionaire's tax, that's okay. Because somehow these people have decided that $1 million, that's the top echelon of income. You can tax the absolute F out of anything above that. Arbitrarily. This is what socialists have decided upon. This is where they sit. All right, let's get into this. San Francisco's office market just landed another unwanted distinction. The city is the second highest office vacancy among major U.S. markets, trailing only San Francisco. Oh, that's comforting. Vacancy rate in Seattle sits at 26.6, above the national average of 18.5. You got L.A., Phoenix, Denver, Downtown Seattle is even grimmer, with vacancy rates nearing or exceeding 35%. 1 out of 3 is gone, vacant, closed. And certain submarkets like Pioneer Square topping 50%. Where that lady got whacked, that's Pioneer Square. That's Pioneer Square. Not a shocker, 50% vacancy factor. The grim numbers arrive as Mayor-elect Katie Wilson prepares to take office on January 1st, 2026. Wilson, who narrowly defeated incumbent Bruce Harrell in November, campaigned on a proposal for a well-designed vacancy tax or fine on empty commercial space to incentivize owners to fill it. Now, these owners aren't sitting around on a bunch of commercial space going, well, I probably let somebody lease this out, but I just don't have any incentive. Got no incentive. I'm still making the payments and I'm still doing all the maintenance and I'm still paying all the taxes, but I got nobody in there. I just need a fine to make me get off my ass and get a tenant in there. No, not like that at all. That's absolute lunacy. So when you've got a business community that can't seem to lease space out, you want to, layer on another cost on them? I mean, that is mental. That's literally mental. You are mentally challenged if you think that's going to do anything. And you know what? Her constituents that elected Katie Wilson, they don't know shit from Shinola. They honestly don't. They're a bunch of millennial kids that don't have any life experience, and they're living in an incredibly expensive community in Seattle. A lot of them are tech people. They're tech bros, and they can't afford, even at 100, 110, 115, 125 grand a year, they can't afford to live in Seattle because progressives have already made it so expensive. You've got the highest Uber, you've got the highest DoorDash, you've got the highest restaurants, got some of the highest housing, you got the highest gasoline prices, you got highest, the list just goes on and on. Second highest vacancy in the United States because businesses are getting pushed out. So you want to layer one more tax on them, a well-designed vacancy tax or fine on empty commercial? Go ahead, we'll see how that works. But it's not because these people aren't getting off their ass. Nobody wants to lease in downtown Seattle. Period. Because of the nonsense I just showed you, right? Business groups have expressed concern that her progressive tax ideas could make the problem worse, not better, potentially accelerating the shift of jobs to suburbs like Bellevue, where I'm sitting. That's happening. That is ongoing. It's not like this might happen. It's already happened. And you're layering on statewide tax and income tax. You got a millionaire's tax. I mean, you got taxes out the ass because this is a Democrat-run state, has been for 40 years, and this is what you get. Super expensive, and you have zero ability to bring affordability back down. And that is what Katie Wilson ran on, and unfortunately, she's going to be able to do absolutely zero towards affordability. Zero. And if she does do something, it's because she's stealing affordability from something else. Wilson's campaign focused on broader downtown revitalization, though her public comments centered more on ground floor retail vacancies than upper floor office space. Well, ground floor vacancies, yeah, those are not good, but those are indications of a much greater problem, which is all the commercial space above them, which is not being taken down by companies because they don't want to be in downtown Seattle. They want to be in downtown Bellevue. And they're coming to downtown Bellevue. Downtown Bellevue is incredibly vibrant. It's wild. It's wild. How many people, how many businesses, the amount of money. I mean, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. You walk down there and you're like, how is this so close to Seattle and so nice and so wealthy and so expensive? And yet Seattle's just a handful of miles that way. Vacancy tax. Her key positions include vacancy tax, office to housing conversions. That's never going to happen. She expressed interest in converting underused office buildings to residential housing. Well, people don't want to live down there. Nobody wants to live in downtown. People used to want to live in Belltown. Helltown, Belltown, even there, you're like, oh, I get stabbed on your way to your condo. Aiming to increase downtown's residential population and boost vibrancy beyond business hours. You need to get a bunch of businesses back in there. And the stuff that we're doing right now is not the way to do it. It's the poster child for the opposite. This is why businesses are leaving, right? This is why people are leaving. Somebody's getting their eye gouged out because you got a bunch of Looney Tunes running around because you don't have any enforcement of the laws in Seattle. You just don't. You defunded the police. You just let everything go. You've got outdoor, open-air drug markets. I mean, the world is your oyster if you're a criminal and you're in Seattle. Broader revitalization. Wilson tied these ideas to affordability, homelessness reduction, even though she says she's going to stop the sweeps. Public safety improvements and preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We'll get her cleaned up for a couple of weeks and then back to normal. Back to normal. Back to normal. Let's skip down here. Seattle still tech is privileged to be in Seattle, one commenter wrote in the Seattle, Washington subreddit. Others pointed to the exodus across Lake Washington, where I am. Companies don't mind moving across the lake to Bellevue, another commenter noted. Meta, Google, etc., they're opening new offices there and closing Seattle offices pretty regularly. 100% true. Bellevue offers proximity to Redmond, where Microsoft is, and site closer to many of the bedroom communities that service the region. It also has more undeveloped land and room to build. And we don't have ridiculous leadership that's looking to push out business. We've got leadership that, yeah, it's Democrat. Yeah, they do the no kings kind of horseshit. But for the most part, they understand, and they have come right out and said, hey, statewide tax, hard no-go, because they understand what that'll do to business. Because if it's in Seattle, Bellevue can thrive. Bellevue can take advantage of that. But if it's the whole damn state, everybody's hosed, right? All right. Well, I guess we'll take Washington off of our list. So what comes next for Seattle's office market? The path remains unclear. Some argue the city needs to rezone and convert empty office towers to housing. That's not practical in a lot of applications. It's just not. The design factor, the infrastructure, the numbers just don't pencil. So unless you got government backing it, and even then you're going to make it a bunch of affordable housing, great. That's all we need downtown is a bunch more Looney Tune homeless running around, right? Others say that it's easier said than done given the cost and complexity of converting modern office buildings. So the notion is, what are we going to do with all these towers? What's going to happen with all these towers? Do they just sit vacant? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, that's the practical reality, and that's the practical reality we've been living with since 2020. Portland, Oregon, same damn thing. San Francisco, battling the same exact factors. So knowing the difficulty that San Francisco is having, filling their commercial office space, knowing exactly the end results of something like a payroll tax on a city like Seattle, knowing that Amazon has literally moved employees out, moved them elsewhere. And then on the horizon, we have a statewide employee tax on big business. And then we've got a millionaire's tax, which is an income tax. That's on the horizon. It'll start off as just tax the millionaires, tax the wealthy people, because that's what Democrats and that's what progressives and that's what socialists do. They just want to tax the absolute F out of anybody making any money because, yeah, socialism works for those who don't. So you've got that going on. So, you've got all these things on the backdrop of Seattle having the second highest vacancy factor in all of the country at well over 30%. In multiple portions of downtown. Overall, it's 26.6. So 1 out of every 4 spaces in downtown is empty, those big high rises. So this is what Katie Wilson is walking into. I think it kind of happens. I think some of that space will get taken down. I think you will have some companies that will start to backfill, that'll start to come in, but it's going to be a long, slow slog. And if any of this ridiculous more taxes comes on board, don't be surprised to see more businesses take off. And that would be kind of the real factor, is how much more do you hit downtown Seattle? If you give a vacancy tax, if you're literally taxing people for having empty space because they can't get it filled, because as government, you can't get your street conditions cleared away, you can't incentivize them to run businesses. Instead, you're doing the opposite, which is providing reasons for people not to start businesses, not to relocate to Seattle. AI is already coming, folks. AI is already in San Fran. AI is already backfilling a whole bunch of space in San Fran. So when you talk about, that being a reality, jobs are disappearing. People have a choice to make wherever they want to start a company. Seattle has been one of those markets where people have gone and, specifically, I want to be in Seattle. Not anymore. Not anymore, because of policies and decisions by decision makers. Politicians. Katie Wilson. We'll see what she comes up with. But she's already said, hey, don't shop at Starbucks. We're off to the wrong foot. But like I say, podcasts for days, weeks, months, years, decades. We're into decades now, because it's going to take decades. We're already at 5 years since the pandemic, right? We're at 5 years since the pandemic, and Seattle's vacancy factor is 26.6. It ain't going away anytime soon, is it? Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Hit the like button. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.